Alright, in Blender there are many lighting options, and I'm just going to show you kind of the basics of lighting so that you can set up a three-point lighting system. So, if you get your bowl assignment and open up your bowl, one thing about lighting is that there needs to be things around, objects around your main object to reflect light, and so depending on how much you want to put around it, but at least a ground plane. So if you don't have a plane, just add a plane. Go to your Add menu or Shift A, and go to Mesh and Plane, and then scale it up so it's about the size of the grid or bigger, depending on how big your bowl is. So now that you have that, that's something there that will reflect light a little bit and will help out. Okay, so by default we have a camera and we have a light. If you are in object mode and you right click to select that light, we can see the properties of the light, and that is up here in the tabs, right here, the light, and it gives us the name of it. We can change that name, and it's got its color, which is white, and strength. It defaults to 100, and if we are in cycles render, which you should be, then the default amount of light, 100, is not very much. So if I render that, it's pretty dim. So really, you should always be changing the lighting each time that before you render it, because this is just not enough light right there. So I can change this to whatever I want, depending on how big my objects are and how much light it requires, but I'm going to go at least 1,000. So then if I render it, it's going to look quite a bit better. Now, with that light and the properties, we can also change the name. So I'm going to change the name here while it's rendering to key light. In three-point lighting, the key light is the main light, to give it the main source of light. And see, that is looking a lot better. But with a three-point lighting system, it's going to look much better because there's going to be 3 lights instead of just 1. And there's not going to be this harsh shadow here or here inside the bowl. We are going to diffuse those shadows just a little bit by adding a fill light on the other side, and then a back or rim light on the back to cast kind of a rim of light on the object to set it apart from the background. So I've got that light now. Now if I hit 7 on my keypad to go to a top view and 5 to be an ortho view, orthographic view, so look right here, ortho view, that way I can see exactly where my light is and I can move it pretty easily. My camera's right here in front of the bowl, and my light, I'm going to hit G on the keyboard to move it, and I'm going to put it, I like to do it on the left side, you could do it on the right side, it doesn't matter where your key light is, but it's going to be about 45 degrees at an angle from the camera view. So there in the corner of the plane, since my camera's straight on. That's my key light. It's at 1,000 strength. Yours could be 2,000, it could be 5,000. Just kind of play with it, render it several times to see what it looks like, and get it to how you want. Now I'm going to copy that, or duplicate it, so I'm going to do Shift D. Shift D will duplicate it, and I'm going to bring it over to the other corner. And now it's a duplicated key light, but I'm going to change that to fill light, just to manage it a little better. To change the names is a good idea. Now I'm going to duplicate it again, Shift D, and I'm going to bring it back here. The backlight needs to be in the back somewhere. It can be straight on, it can be on the right, left, doesn't really matter. And I'm going to change the name to backlight, back or rim light. Okay, these are point lights. I could change them. I could make them spotlights. So if I wanted this one right here to be a spotlight, and then it shines in a specific direction, and I could change the size of it. Oh, there's the size. Change the size and then angle it the way I want, pointing at the bowl. The backlight I probably wouldn't want spotlight. I want it, well, it depends. So I can change those to different types of lights. I'm going to keep mine at a point light for now. Okay, so that lighting is going to look a lot better already because there's 3 of them. But with point lighting, the key light is the strongest. The fill light is going to be less. I usually put it about 70%, maybe 60%. So I'm going to do 700 for now. And of course it's all preference and it all depends, but this is the 3-point lighting system that you need to do for the assignment, and it's just a good idea to have in each scene as a starter point if you don't know much about lighting. The backlight, I'm going to go even less, maybe 50% of the light, of the key light, so 500. And if I render that, it's going to look much better already. Then I'll just show you a couple more little tips with lighting. Okay, so there's still quite a bit of shadow in the bowl. That's because my lights are kind of low. So I'm probably going to want to raise those lights up. Let me show you one other tip for rendering, which is nice in Blender. I've rendered to slot 1 here, so I'm going to change that to slot 2. And then the next time I render, it's going to render on slot 2, and then I can compare slot 1 and slot 2. It keeps the previous render that I did. So I'm going to hit escape. I'm going to raise these up. So if I go to a front view, I'm going to raise these up so I can see some light inside the bowl. Okay, and now that I render, it's going to be on slot 2, and then I can compare the two, what I just did. I can also switch the strengths of my lamps, or lights, to play with the lighting, the shadows, and get it to where it looks good, where I think it looks good. Okay, so now I've got shadows, but they are not as harsh, and so that's what I'm looking for. A little more shadow over here behind the key light, a little less over here behind the fill light, and then there's even light behind it for the rim or the backlight. So that's looking a lot better. And then I can compare and say, oops, slot 1, see it was like that. I raised the lights up, and it looks a little better that way. I could go to slot 3 now and say, well, I'm going to increase the lighting, this one to 2000, this one to maybe 1500, and this one to 1000. So you can play around with the light. You can change the color of the lights, which does different things. Also, another thing to lighten it up is, and now that I lightened all my lights, I might not want to do this, but I go to this world tab here, and this is the background color right back here, and I can change that, and that will just immediately lighten up the image when I render it. So if I render it now, it's going to be significantly lighter, and it just depends on what you're going for, how light you want it, how dark you want it. You should never have it dark unless there's a reason to have it dark. Okay, so that's going to look a lot nicer, really. So this is kind of ambient lighting, and you don't want to bump that up too much. You want to really use the lighting so that you can have shadows. If you go too high with this, there's going to be no shadows, and that will, you won't have a sense of depth with the shadows. Shadows are important. You just don't want them real harsh. So that looks quite a bit better. And then I can compare it from slot 2. See, that's kind of dark now that I look at it, and this looks a lot lighter. I could even go higher with the lamp strengths. Okay, so that's the basics of 3-point lighting. Key light at 45 degrees, fill light, less strength at 45 degrees, and a backlight with even less strength than the fill light behind the image somewhere. And there's always more that you can do with lighting. Change the lights. You can even add a plane and put it up here and shine it down like a light on the ceiling. So it's a physical object that's you put an emission shader on it and it emits light. And that can be a different tutorial, different lesson.